After returning from a week-long international journey, I was taken aback by an unexpected call from my mother-in-law, Judy. Bursting with excitement, she announced that we had come into a windfall of $52,000. I racked my brain, struggling to recall any situation that might explain such a large sum. As a freelance jewelry designer, I maintain a savings account for emergencies, but I certainly don't stash away large amounts of cash. My bank card, which only had access, was securely in my possession. Judy, sounding triumphant, explained that she had discovered the money in a sideboard drawer and believed it was acceptable to take it since we were financially stable. Before I could ask for clarification, she expressed her gratitude and hinted at needing my financial support in the future before hanging up. I was left in a state of confusion about the alleged missing $52,000, a mystery that persisted until my husband, Edward, returned home from work and cleared up the misunderstanding. However, a month later, Judy bombarded me with calls. Initially, I ignored her relentless ringing, but the constant notifications eventually compelled me to pick up the phone. Accusations of my supposed negligence weighed heavily on the conversation. Judy felt wronged, but I saw it as her facing the consequences of her assumptions. Edward and I shared our lives, both deeply involved in growing my jewelry business. Early in our marriage, his stable corporate job had supported us while my design gigs were sporadic. But as my business flourished around the time I turned 35, demanding more of my time and attention, Edward made a bold choice. He left his promising career to join me, and together we secured contracts with prestigious international brands, elevating both our careers and personal lives. However, this success brought challenges, especially regarding Judy, who lived alone in the family home. She viewed our lifestyle through a lens of envy, often making financial demands. "You always seem to be living so lavishly. I'm so jealous," she would say, mistaking my attendance at product launches and executive dinners for leisurely activities. Her requests became increasingly personal, including a memorable instance when she asked for money to host a party, unaware of the financial burdens our business incurred. Despite my efforts to clarify the nature of our expenses, Judy's misunderstandings persisted. She would often comment, "You dress so beautifully and dine at expensive places. I envy you." Yet she failed to grasp the reality behind it all. Edward, being her son, sometimes acquiesced to her financial requests, rationalizing that a little money for peace was worth it. But Judy's demands only escalated. Recently, she expressed a desire for a new dress for an upcoming gathering, insisting on an expensive outfit and a matching bag, which left us frustrated. To manage her spending, Edward had initially set up a credit card for Judy, instructing her to use it for personal expenses. However, she quickly overspent, ignoring our warnings. This pattern of financial demands drained both Edward and me as we tried to balance supporting family with sustaining our business. One day, Judy admitted, "I found an exquisite ring I couldn't resist buying, but I regret not telling you first." The bill was exorbitant. Once aware of the financial strain her spending was causing, we realized it was best to reclaim the card if her spending remained unchecked. We explained that while the credit card was in Judy's name, Edward managed and paid the bills. She treated it like an unlimited resource, not fully understanding that every purchase required eventual payment. To curb her spending, Edward decided to impose a limit on the card. This decision led to a dramatic confrontation when Judy stormed into our home frustrated after being unable to pay for her shopping. "What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day," she exclaimed. Edward, striving to maintain peace, explained, "We had to lower your monthly limit because your excessive spending was straining our finances. But you two are still dressing up and going to fancy places. How is what I'm doing any different?" Judy protested, seeing our activities as purely recreational. Edward replied, "That's part of our job." Judy argued that it was unfair she didn't get to partake in the glamorous events we attended. While it was true that our work required attending product launches and parties at luxurious venues, these commitments were strictly professional, not leisurely pastimes. Despite the misunderstandings, setting a spending limit on Judy's card restored some semblance of peace. Occasionally, Judy would share her grievances with Edward during her visits, but life continued mostly without significant interruptions. As the year drew to a close, an exhilarating opportunity arose. A foreign brand manufacturer proposed that we expand our business dealings by relocating our base overseas. I was exhilarated at the prospect of advancing to the ranks of top-tier designers, and Edward, ever supportive as my manager, was completely on board. It's a chance we have to take, he encouraged. However, the idea of moving abroad brought up a new concern. Judy. Given her past behavior, we worried she might insist on joining us. While the notion of living internationally was enticing, the thought of managing Judy's demands in a new country felt overwhelming. When we finally shared our plans with Judy about relocating for work, her reaction was as we expected. I want to come too, she declared, mistaking our move for an extended holiday. Edward tried to clarify, we're going there for work, it won't be as leisurely as you think. Yet Judy remained unconvinced, accusing us, you're trying to trick me. You plan to live even more lavishly there without me watching. We're not moving there permanently, we'll be back once our work is done, I assured her, but she countered, you're saying that now, but you're planning to leave me behind, aren't you? Both Edward and I felt weary from the endless arguments. In a bid to find a compromise, Edward suggested, okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead? Judy perked up at this. Really? Are you sure? Edward replied, we'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll need to manage everything else. This momentarily satisfied her, but our peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Edward was busy making arrangements for our overseas move, Judy showed up unexpectedly. Hey, Catherine. Edward greeted her, but she quickly cut in. I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money? I raised an eyebrow. What about the card Edward gave you? I reminded her, knowing she had a designated credit card for such expenses. Judy's expression fell. That's the thing. Edward finally took it away from me the other day, she admitted. It seemed she had been reprimanded for her overspending, and anticipating the financial challenges of navigating different currency rates abroad, Edward had confiscated the card. I don't have that kind of money on hand either, she confessed. I can't give you any money without Edward's approval. Can you ask him? Knowing Edward's firm stance on these matters, I wasn't sure how this would play out. I suggested that Judy speak to Edward about her request, but she quickly dismissed the idea. It's no use asking him. That's why I'm asking you, she insisted, her voice laced with frustration. Despite my reservations, Judy somehow managed to secure funding for a 12-day international trip, which I assumed Edward had arranged. Upon her return, she called me, bubbling with excitement. I'm back, and it was so fun, she gushed, sharing stories of her sightseeing and dining adventures, details I hadn't asked for. I overbought souvenirs and couldn't fit them all in my suitcase, so I had them shipped here. I can't wait for them to arrive. That's nice, I replied, struggling to keep my tone neutral while feeling overwhelmed by her enthusiasm and the unspoken costs involved. Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast, she added, confusing me. Saved up money? What are you talking about? I found it in your house's sideboard drawer, she explained casually, claiming she had taken $52,000. I was stunned. Why would such a large sum of money be hidden in our home, especially in a drawer so easy to access? I'm not sure what money you're talking about, but taking it from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand that? Her response was unsettlingly nonchalant. That's why I'm telling you now. I use it. Consider this a post-factum report, she declared unapologetically. I was baffled. I have no idea about this money, but if you took it and used it without telling anyone, that's a crime. If it was something Edward had set aside for an important transaction, it's even more serious, I explained, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. Yet I noticed no significant disruptions in our business finances during her trip. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your son. It's not a big deal, right? She rationalized, displaying an entitlement that was hard to comprehend. It's one thing to ask for help from your son and his wife, but this is not how you should behave after taking someone else's money, I replied, still in disbelief. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but we need to address this issue seriously. When Judy casually mentioned the amount, $552,000, with unwavering confidence, I was taken aback. I'll talk to Edward about it when he gets back. He'll understand since I'm his mother, and to him, $52,000 is just a drop in the bucket. Her nonchalant attitude and the misquoted amount left me shocked. I promised to share Judy's perspective with Edward that evening. When Edward arrived home, he looked visibly distressed. Catherine, did you see the money I left in the drawer? He asked urgently. I took it out from the bank 3 weeks ago, and now it's missing. Wasn't it risky to store such a large sum so insecurely? I needed the cash for a crucial payment, he continued, his concern growing. Do you know anything about it? Suddenly, it clicked for me. Judy's earlier phone call about having fun with $52,000 was referencing this missing money. Edward, Judy called earlier. She thanked us for the $52,000, saying she thoroughly enjoyed using it. I explained, still feeling confused. Edward sighed, his expression turning serious as he shared more details. After I lowered the limit on Judy's credit card, she started secretly acquiring money from other credit sources. I discovered her debt and confiscated all her cards. I withdrew the cash to clear her debts without involving our business accounts or complicating our financial records. This was also meant as a parting gesture to preparing to move abroad and wouldn't be around to manage her financial issues in person. It had been a month since we started planning the move, and I realized I hadn't been able to focus on Judy's calls. When I finally answered, her tone was desperate. "Why aren't you answering? I've called so many times," she lamented, her voice quaking on the verge of tears. "I'm sorry, I've been busy with the move." "What's happening?" I asked gently. "It's overwhelming. They demand payments daily, and it's too much to handle," Judy confessed, clearly stressed. "Have you tried reaching out to Edward first?" I suggested, hoping she had tried to resolve this with him. "He's not taking my calls, Catherine. You're my last hope. Please, can you help?" Judy pleaded. In that moment, I realized the gravity of her situation. Her financial mismanagement had spiraled into a significant crisis. Now, cut off from Edward's direct help, she was desperately looking to me for support. As we prepared for our new life abroad, addressing Judy's financial turmoil had become an urgent priority that demanded our immediate and careful attention before we could fully immerse ourselves in the exciting prospects of our new venture. I was taken aback by Edward's unexpected approach to handling his mother's situation. If he had directly used the allocated funds to settle Judy's debts, the relentless onslaught of collection letters and persistent creditor calls could have been avoided. Instead, Judy found herself overwhelmed by financial demands, a scenario that felt as if it had been plucked straight from a dramatic film, something I never thought I would witness firsthand. At the end of our conversation, Judy looked distressed as she pleaded, "Please talk to Edward for me." Despite the pressing needs of our business expansion and the tightness of our financial resources, making it impossible to extend any further help, especially since Judy had previously mismanaged the funds intended for her debts, I promised I would speak with Edward. When Edward returned home, I shared Judy's situation with him. His response was a mix of exhaustion and resignation. "I had plans to settle everything before we left, but she wasted that opportunity," he stated, his tone lacking warmth. The funds that were supposed to free Judy from her debts had instead been squandered on a lavish vacation, leaving no room for excuses. As Judy's desperate calls continued, I reluctantly followed Edward's decision to block her number. Part of me wanted to help. After all, she was Edward's mother, but his choice to distance himself from the situation left me with no alternative. Amid the chaos of packing for our move abroad, I stumbled upon another distressing update. Judy had been forced to sell her house to manage her debts, revealing even more undisclosed liabilities. The total amount was so substantial that even the sale of her property wouldn't cover it all. The loss of the family home where Edward had grown up deeply upset us both. "Hey, our family home is gone. Are you okay with that?" I asked, sensing his melancholy. "How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do," Edward replied, his voice tinged with sorrow. The loss resonated with me, reminiscent of my own feelings when I lost my parents' home at a young age. As we grappled with these intense emotions and the daunting task of packing, we realized that some situations were simply beyond our control. It was time to focus on our future and prepare for our new life in another country. The bittersweet reality of losing a family home struck a deep chord within me. Watching Edward navigate this loss was profoundly affecting. It was not just about the physical loss of a building but the loss of a piece of our shared history and emotional sanctuary, especially with Judy still part of our lives. The blend of loss and displacement in such painful circumstances was indescribable, highlighting an impact far deeper than mere bricks and mortar. It was about losing a part of one's very essence. Meanwhile, Judy, now living in a simple apartment, faced the daily challenges of managing her overwhelming debts. At her age, finding part-time work posed significant obstacles. Job opportunities for the elderly were scarce, often physically demanding, and rarely rewarding. This stark contrast to her previous lifestyle, marked by unchecked spending and financial freedom, brought a complicated mix of emotions. While it was tough to watch her struggle, it served as a reminder that her predicament was largely due to her own financial missteps. Life, as it often does, taught us through Judy's situation that actions have consequences and that financial responsibility is crucial at every stage of life. Meanwhile, in our new setting, our business was flourishing unexpectedly well. The move overseas had thrust our brand into the international spotlight, attracting inquiries and offers from around the globe. Each new email and call presented opportunities for further expansion and collaboration, which was thrilling yet demanding. However, amid our professional success, our personal lives felt the pressure of relentless schedules. The dream of expanding our family seemed like a distant goal, something we hoped to revisit once the immediate demands subsided. Edward, managing multiple roles from logistics to client relations, particularly felt the strain. As partners in both life and business, we often found ourselves reflecting on our future and priorities, trying to figure out how to align our professional ambitions with our personal desires. From the window of our apartment, I gazed out at the vibrant cityscape, its neon lights blending into the night. The contrast between this bustling, relentless city that was now our home and the quiet, stable life we had left behind was stark. The complexity of our new life was exhilarating yet daunting, filled with endless tasks and decisions that tested us at every step. Reflecting on Judy's situation and the broader implications of our family and financial decisions, I realized how deeply our choices were intertwined with the fabric of our lives. Each decision, each sacrifice, and each success shaped not only our immediate circumstances but also the legacy we were building. As we embarked on this new phase of our lives, we remained mindful of the delicate balance between achieving professional success and maintaining the relationships that defined who we were beyond our business achievements. This journey was a continuous learning curve, underscoring the significance of every choice and its impact on our future.